FSElite at FSExpo 2025 is proudly presented by MeridianGMT. MeridianGMT are on track to create some high-quality but affordable flight sim hardware, including their yoke, throttle, and X-ray controller. Learn more about MeridianGMT down in the video description down below at meridiangmt.com.
Hello, and thank you for coming. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today, where I'm going to start with presenting kind of my idea of modularity for the whole, from a beginner to advanced user, but don't assume that what I'm saying is like what you can have your own opinion. And the idea is that I want to show you my version of how I want to integrate modularity into a whole kind of start to, from beginner to advanced user, that they use the same components throughout and expand on it. But then afterwards, I want to kind of open it up to a workshop and kind of get your opinions about, did you see it that way, where I'm talking about what's the progression of a flight simmer? Where do they go from VFR to IFR to ATC, or in a different procession? And that's important if you want to have a base unit that you have from the beginning and then build onto. Then you also need to know what are the different steps as you grow as a flight simmer, become more complex and advanced. And so I'd really like to get your feedback and input on a lot of these things, because I only have my own experience and the people around me, and that's not necessarily how everybody else sees it. So let's get started. So modular flight sim design. So I think one of the problems as you progress as a flight simmer is that, and I've named the levels, you can call them something else, but I call level 1 bush pilot. And so when you first enter as a flight simmer, your price sensitivity is high, you don't want to spend a lot of money on it. Usually you start with a entry-level flight stick, and that ideal product for that would be a product that has just a basic feature. A beginner doesn't need 20 different buttons to program. He doesn't need to, what's a flight director? I don't read manuals. So it just has to be basic, but it has to have good flight controls, and it's just plug and play, connect and fly. And I call that product the unicorn, because that product doesn't exist today. What does exist in the entry level is products with a clear center detent that has jerky controls that's imprecise, which makes it difficult, your learning curve steeper and frustrating. And while I don't have any exact data, I'm sure that is going to take a lot of people that might have had a long and prosperous, happy hobby in flight sim, exit it because it was not a hobby that was easy to come into, and it was frustrating. And so that product I call the koala, because that should not be qualified to be called a flight sim product. Sorry, I have stupid jokes. So then level 2, barnstormer, that's where people kind of got more specific. About half goes over and flies with yokes, the other half sticks with flight sticks, less price sensitivity, more mid-tier price point, $200–300. But the problem is, with actually the sticks, I forgot to say, is when you're in the entry level, you buy that stick, you play with it for a year or two, and then as you want something better, you retire that product, put it on the shelf, and then you have to basically start from scratch and buy a brand new product and build on that. So not only is it more costly, but you also you're basically wasting a lot of units and components that could be otherwise utilized at a much earlier standpoint. And also, go back, is if you want to buy a yoke and a throttle and maybe avionics units, then you're looking at a much higher price point, and your wallet might not be able to meet your ambitions on that. So there's a lot of problem with how flight sim hardware kind of is set up for different users today that I think there's a way to address that in a really, really simple way. And then, of course, there's level 3, the armchair captain. That's when you get the really, they want to spend $500, $600, $800 on a yoke or a stick, force feedback. That's when they become a more complex pilot. They maybe fly IFR, they use ATC services, etc. But again, there's very little cross-compatibility and conformity. You see people building their own home cockpits. You really have to put some time into it, and so there's just very, very little like uniform solutions across. Everything is kind of custom and not very user-friendly. And then there's the John Travolta level, where you just buy a 707. But I have checked; there's very few available for sale, so not really an option. So there we go. So what I want to do is I want to eliminate level 1 and 2 completely. Your very first flight, people usually start with a flight stick, but your very first flight stick should have a fidelity level of experience that you would usually, at this point, not see until like 4 or 5 years into your career as an armchair general or pilot. And the way to do it is reduce features and replace it with a higher fidelity. So, if you're a new sim pilot, you don't need 20 buttons. You don't, you probably, I didn't at least. I had no idea what I would use them for. It was just, you need a gear lever, you need a flap lever. These days you need a parking brake because all simulators have the parking brake on from the get-go. And then you need a basic stick and throttle, and that's all you need. And anything beyond that really is almost an overwhelming experience for a new simmer. So there's no value in it either. But by taking all those unnecessary features out and replace it with what we're working on right now is a 2-axis cam solution. And I don't want to say the price point yet because we get to a slide where I want to hear where these things should be, what should be an entry-level price point product, what is the second tier, so on. And then the other thing is a basic yoke and throttle like the Logitech or maybe something I'm working on that I can't talk about it yet, but the $200 price point. And that unit becomes a unit that you keep throughout your progression as a flight simmer. So that will give you that high tier that you usually don't get to later. And then as you progress, as your simming becomes more complex, as you transition from, VFR to IFR, or where you go from a Cessna to start flying virtual airlines on filed flight plan into the National Air System, you will be able to upgrade and add components to your current setup. So you don't have to restart every time you get to a different level. You basically just expand when you get to that level. And that will give you that experience from the get-go where your very first stick will have a really nice, no detent, smooth movement. You'll get a quick growth or development growth. What do you call it? Sorry, I run a different time zone. A little tired. You'll progress faster. You'll have less frustrations with dealing with jerky equipment that's unprecise, and so your success or your experience of flight sim, which is supposed to be a representation of real flying, is going to be great from day one, but without having to spend the money that would usually cost. And then you could go level 1 upgrade, could be a more advanced stick that you plug onto it, or you could add on. So the way that we are building it right now is that we are using the same module across different types of simulations. So you'll be able to use the same module for a helicopter stick, for a military stick. you can add on a collective, so it's just, but everything is inside the same modular system that's compatible with each other. And yeah, the guy that bought a $200 yoke, he doesn't need an upgrade yet, he's fine. And then, no? There, level 2, that's when you start getting modules available. And I don't have the answer, I hope you guys have it, what's the progression? Like, do you go from just VFR pilot to suddenly, the comm panel is the most important one, or are you starting to use, autopilot panel, or MCPs, or FCUs, or if you're flying Boeing or Airbus? What's the progression? That's kind of important to figure out so that you can modulate the components that you add on to your system in the correct order. And then if you fly with a yoke, you might add a premium throttle quadrant. I can recommend right over here, there's a company that's making a brand new, really cool one. You should check it out. And then, wow, right? There we go. And then level 3 is like where we're looking at basically building your whole full cockpit, having avionics, and so on. And even within that, there's a step ladder, right? You might start with GPS or an FMC, and then buy a whole avionics unit. And really understanding the consumer habit and perpetual timeline that is in there is going to be really important to be able to offer the products and the price points that's necessary to build a fairly advanced system like that. And then, just happened to be that 2 days ago we signed an agreement with Microsoft. So Microsoft is going to be part of the modular system and going to be available on both Xbox and PC. I see a natural progression where the people that start on Xbox at some point, when they get to a certain advancement level, the Xbox is not capable of providing the solutions that we want to it. So I think that there's a natural progression from Xbox to PC in that, but it's a great starting point, so we want to be there to offer that as well. But yeah, as I said, for auto progression, and then most importantly, what should be the price points of these things? Right? What's the barrier of entry for a beginner? What was it when you started out flying? Well, how much were you willing to spend on a? Am I supposed to?
No.
Yeah.
So
well, how much were you spending? And then yeah, same thing for the tier 2. What's the price sensitivity?
So for that discussion,
Yeah.
if you want to raise your hand, and I will walk around and give people a microphone. Yes. And if you can introduce yourself as well.
Hello, Scott Peterson from San Diego. When I started off, I started with a Logitech stick, and it was roughly going about $50. So I guess that would be the average price for level 1.
Oh, I'm going to go down on your level here. So, how long did you have that before you upgraded to something more advanced?
I'm still flying with it today.
Oh, okay. Did you add any modules? Did you add like autopilots or multi-panel, Logitech? I mean, did you make all that stuff?
No, I'm thinking either VR or maybe upgrading, kind of looking around out here, and probably going to make a decision at the end of the weekend.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to talk about how they started as a simmer? Yeah, go for it.
Yes. Introduce yourself and your question.
My name is Ian, and when I started out, it was way back in the day and I had just a yoke. I didn't have a yoke. I just had a joystick.
Yeah.
And I forgot
how much did you pay for it?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Oh.
Hello, Zachary Hudson.
Hey, Zach.
And my first peripheral was a CH Products yoke. It had 3 throttle levers attached to it. Very heavy plastic feel. I got it as a Christmas present, so I don't remember how much it cost. Yeah.
I think I know how much it cost. They're actually like 20 miles away from me. Well, they were 20 miles away from me. Oh.
I'm Raphael. I started in 1995, flying Microsoft Flight Sim. I started flying it with a mouse. Yeah. The first piece of hardware I bought was, I believe that CH Flight yoke was about 35 bucks in like 1997, I think it was. About $35. It finally died about a year ago, by the way.
Wow.
And then just slowly but surely started moving up from there. More, I think, in the past 5 years than any other time. But now I'm looking at all this stuff, and I kind of have to staple my wallet to my butt today to keep it from escaping. But now I'm just the hell with it. I'm just going to get everything I want.
Oh, we're coming out with helicopter stuff as well. But so I remember when I ended up taking over SciTech back in 2008, running that when it was bought by an American company that I worked for, and they didn't know what to do with it. It was a stepchild that just came with another purchase. The very first thing I did was go to the AOPA summit in Long Beach, and nobody knew who SciTech was. They were all on CH. All the real pilots were on CH, and all the simmers were on SciTech back then. And that was basically all there was, unless you wanted to pay $1,000 for a precision flight control yoke. Yeah, no, it was really, I saw it back then. It's like there was really nothing in between. It was either gaming level toys or very expensive, flight training devices that were sold to consumers as well. And when in my previous endeavor, I saw that big gap that there was no real premium products at an affordable price point that was for mass markets. And so both for this, but also on the products that we announced earlier at Flight Sim weekend and showed yesterday as well, is that the goal is 100% that our model is that we want to do high fidelity, realistic flight sim hardware, but affordable for everyone. And a $300 yoke is not necessarily affordable for everyone. If you add a throttle at the same price point, it does get bigger, or it definitely gets up in zone 2 or 3 there. And so with this, what we're really trying to do is say, you know what? And I'll tell you what I think the different price levels are. So I think a stick and throttle with a dual cam, obviously not in built aluminum, you can't do that, but still a high quality experience should be able to be done for $100. And I think $100 is a really good entry level start point. But right now, the best selling flight stick and throttle on the market is $100 actually. And it came out in 2007. The best-selling military flight stick is the X56 Logitech, which I designed at SciTech in 2008. That's the number one. Yeah, it's like the market is just there's no movement. Like the last throttle and yoke that I designed before COVID is still the number one in the market. Nobody's even challenged it, right? There's nothing that's come out that. And so it's almost concerning, but I feel it's a lazy market because there's no reason to be innovative and make new stuff because there's no competition. Like Thrustmaster sits on almost all the 6. Turtle Beach now sits on almost all the Xbox stuff. So it's like, why make new and innovative products when you're not gaining any additional sales on it? So it should become a lazy market. Wingwin is the exception. They're kind of the head tip to them that are being a disruptor right now. But it's a tough market. It's not a very rewarding place to be as a flight simmer because there really is very few companies that care about us. I have to be so. So the point of this is to not only make a realistic high-end flight sim experience available to new beginners, but also be able to create a modular system that can grow with you as you can afford it and as you become more advanced. But this is my kind of prediction on it. But and you can come to me afterwards. I would love to hear you guys like, what would be important to you? Like I see, like for example, the first thing would be like a switch panel and an ignition starter, stuff like that to add onto it, a basic stick. But then what's the next? Is a comm nav unit or an autopilot? Like where's this going? Because if I don't know what you guys want, then it's going to be really, really difficult to make it for you. And then most importantly, what's the price point? Where do you need to be? So my personal is that entry level is $100. And it shows because that flight stick that is the #1 selling has like a 60% market share on sticks, even though it's horribly outdated. So the price point is a major, major driver in this, and that's $99. But where's the price point? Where's the, like, if you go into, like, let's say basic avionics or autopilots, GPS, what's the price point? 200? What's when you go up to more avionics solutions like flight decks, PFDs, MFDs? Is it 300, 400? Really, as a manufacturer that's working on a very low margin to be able to do these things, the only way I can do that is by doing it, making up for it in volume. And the only way I can make it up for it in volume is make sure that we reach as broad a demographic as possible. And so we can't, and you never see me make a product that's very specific to an aircraft. It's always a compromise that spans as broad as possible, because else that business model just doesn't work. So yeah, I mean, we're right there. If you want to come talk to me, but I would love to hear what you guys have to say and what you think. What was important to you as you grew with this as a hobby? What is important for you in the future? What would you like to see? And then we can tailor what we're doing to what you need. I think that's the best way of doing it. What do you think? All right. Yeah, I know. Anybody want to share?
The first question is from my son about a price. Well, I bought that for him, and that point up there, less than $100. But at that point, it's a toy. But beyond that, now he's at level 3, and he wants something at that level there. Me, I'm a beginner. I started a couple of years ago. I can't fly a kite. I can't, but I want to be the beginner. But I'm at level 2. That's where I want to go to that. So what I wanted to say is that all this is about integration, not in the system itself. My big trouble is the real estate on my desk, because the system I got now to start off with, it occupied the full desk over there and a computer. All right, you're talking about that. How do you blend that together, the components of that? I like that idea, because that's a future for where I want to go. Okay, and thank you.
Awesome, that's awesome. Yeah. Now I just need to know what those modules are, and how much you're willing to pay for them. So, cool. I mean, I didn't have much more to say. I really wanted to hear from you guys, what you have to say, but maybe some are shy. You can come see me over behind the curtain afterwards. That sounded weird. I'm sorry.
Nick, I know for myself,
yeah.
I very much relate to this, to the point you raised, is that I very much am limited by how much desk space do I have. And so how do you think about that as you are trying to design your modular system?
Yeah, and I know in the past, a lot of people have complained that I have taken up the whole desk. So to that, I just want to say our new modules over there will actually have a mouse extension pad, so you have a place for your mouse. And the next step, which is our full avionics units, which I was supposed to announce this week, but there's too much with the stuff that we already do that I thought it was too much. But I have spoken to both Microsoft and Laminar, and they're going to open up their user guide system. So you'll be able to set up everything on the touch screens on the avionics panels. You don't need a mouse, you don't need a keyboard anymore. So, but I don't really, it's a little early. I always get accused of talking about stuff too early, and then people get upset because it's not ready yet. So I'm trying not to do it, but I love this stuff, so it's hard to keep my mouth shut, but a lot to come. But without you guys telling me what you want, I'll have to guess a little bit. I prefer not to do that. So, but I really appreciate you listening, contributing. Please come see me if you have more to share. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, tomorrow, I got another session, but tomorrow we are doing a deep dive into the products that I showed yesterday at this. We only had 10 minutes, so we are going to talk about all the expansion modules that you can add, motorized trim, what you can do as add-on modules, what the long-term plans, because with the Tango Plus, Sierra Plus, and well, not the Xbox controller, but that's part of the modular system as well. Obviously, a $300 yoke is not an entry-level product, but the ecosystem is still part of it. And the idea is also that the avionics modules that you use for a stick solution is completely compatible with the yoke solution. So everything mounts together. I grew up in the city where Lego is from in Denmark, so I know a lot about pulling stuff together. So that's basically what it is. It's Lego for flight simmers. And that's what we're doing. So you don't have to build your home cockpit. You don't have to buy cockpit shells. Everything will just fit together. And it doesn't matter if you're flying stick or yoke, or if you want to combine an advanced yoke with a stick, everything's going to work together. So I can't wait to show you the whole system. It's pretty awesome. We have about 40 products on our roadmap right now that we are planning to get out in the next 36 months. So ambitious. And I'm probably not going to make it, but I believe that I can. And that's the first step. So thanks a lot, guys.
Give it up for Nikki.